Hello, Chapter 1 deals with Social Security. So there, one of the questions asks, well, the question in assignment 3 asks what the myths of Social Security are as described in the book and how can the system be fixed. So go ahead and read the chapter. It discusses the myths of Social Security to help you answer the first part. But the second part is not so clear in the textbook, so I wanted to go over the notes on that. Social Security is kind of a mess. It's going to it's a pay-as-you-go system, meaning the people who are working pay into the system, people who are retired take money out of the system. There's a reserve right now, and that reserve is expected to have a zero balance by 2034. Now, this is kind of morbid, but with that number actually isn't correct anymore. We may not go broke, or may not have a zero balance now until a later date because of COVID, because we've lost so many baby boomers or so many older people who are on Social Security as a result of COVID, that the Social Security system is a little better off than they thought it was going to be. So anyway, who knows what will happen though, because those people died sooner, they were going to die eventually. But there's been a few articles saying that the Social Security isn't as bad as they had projected because of COVID, unfortunately. So anyway, but Social Security is an issue. It's got a lot of issues. When Social Security was first enacted, basically during the Great Depression, was enacted by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It was only meant to keep people out of the gutter. It's basically a fail-safe to give people some subsistence. It was never meant as the end-all be-all or our main retirement. It's just basically to keep us out of poverty. So when people first started collecting Social Security, there were about 5 people paying into the system for every one person who was getting Social Security. Also, the normal retirement age was 65 for Social Security, and the life expectancy back then was around 66. So most of us, if we were lucky enough to get Social Security, we were kicking the bucket a year later. Well, now what's happened is we have people living a lot longer. And so we have fewer people, we have more people getting Social Security as a ratio to people paying in. It's like 3 to 1 right now, I believe. It's going to go down to 2 to 1, pretty soon 1 to 1. And then we have this, there's not going to be any reserves. So, and also when you think about immigration, we really do need immigration in a way. We need immigration of professionals who are, the people who come here to go to college and hopefully will stay to have good jobs here, because we need immigrants making good money, paying into Social Security to help with Social Security. So anyway, it's pay-as-you-go system, as I said. Now, right now, the ages are age 62. You can begin taking Social Security at age 62. The normal retirement age was age 65. Now it's age 67. If you're born in 1960 or later, your normal retirement age is age 67. You have to begin taking Social Security benefits by age 70. There's no benefit of waiting longer than age 70. So you have this window. You can take benefits at age 62 if you want, but you're going to get a greater benefit if you wait till your normal retirement age, which for probably for everybody in this class, including me, is age 67. And if you wait till you're 70, you can make a lot more, about a third more in benefits. So the question becomes, when should you take Social Security? Well, it really depends on your health, right? If you wait till you're 70, you make about a third more. The break-even age is about 78. So if you can make it past age 78, you're better off waiting till age 70 to take Social Security. If you live to be age 84 and you've taken Social Security since the age of 62, you've left about $100,000 on the table, because you're getting about at least a third less in the benefit if you take it at age 62. So it really depends on your health. If you don't need the money, and you're in good health, I would recommend waiting a little bit later to take Social Security, because you do, over your lifetime, you will have a bigger benefit. But what do you think most Americans do? Most of my relatives have all taken it at age 62. Most Americans take it at age 62 because they want the money. And it's kind of a bird in hand thing. It's a sure bird in hand is worth two in the bush. If you've heard that saying, a bird in hand worth two in the bush, it's a fail-safe strategy. They're getting that guaranteed money, even though it is less. So why is Social Security having problems? Well, because people are living longer. Number one. Number two, they've added things to Social Security. It used to just be strict Social Security payments when you retire. They've added spousal benefits. In other words, if your spouse never worked or had a lower paying job, or just say, let's take an extreme case. Let's say your spouse never worked. Your spouse can get half of your benefit. So when you apply for Social Security, if you're married, you can take your benefit based on your wages, or you can get half of the spousal benefit. So you see, by adding a spousal benefit for a spouse, say, that's never worked, that is putting a strain on the system, or that's costing the system more. They also added survivor benefits. Here's the worst of it, though. They added Social Security disability. It used to be very hard to get disability, Social Security disability. It's much easier now. Remember the chapter on unemployment? So Social Security disability is, the statistics are just ridiculous. How many people have Social Security disability now? And that's really putting a strain on the system. Okay, so those are, in a nutshell, those are some of the reasons why the system is stretched to the limit. Will there still be Social Security when you retire? Yes, there probably will be, but it probably will be changed a little bit. So what might it look like? Well, let's look at some ways to fix Social Security. During the second President Bush's first administration, which was around 2000, 2001-ish. Well, I'm trying to think of when 9/11 happened. 9/11 was in now I can't think of the exact year. Was it 2002? Anyway, right around that time, they were really seriously considering making some changes to Social Security. Then 9/11 happened, and all bets were off. They quit talking about it. So here's how you can fix Social Security. You can increase the retirement age. That would help. The longer they wait to do any of these adjustments, the worse it's going to be. So right now, the normal retirement age is age 67. It didn't really do any good, though, to change the retirement age from age 65 to 67 when you're still letting people retire at age 62, though, right? Because most people are still taking that benefit at age 62. So I think if they're going to increase the retirement age, they should increase the early retirement age as well, of when you can start taking the benefits. So I think probably in my lifetime and your lifetime, we're going to see an increase in this retirement age, maybe up to 68, maybe up to 69, maybe eventually up to 70, because people are living so much longer. So that's a way to fix it. Another fix, increase the Social Security withholding tax. This is not popular at all, because we're already paying so much in taxes. It's really depressing. I know I was depressed as a teenager when I got my first paycheck and saw how little it was after the federal taxes, and not just the federal and the state taxes, but the Social Security taxes. 6.2% is taken out of your checks, our checks, for Social Security. Your employer is contributing another 6.2%. And then there's I think it's 1.4% or something for Medicare. So between Medicare, it's a lot of money between Medicare and Social Security. But let's just talk about Social Security. Medicare is a whole nother issue. Medicare is in even worse shape than Social Security because of the increased healthcare costs. That's definitely going to look different when you all go on Medicare. Probably by the time I get on Medicare, it's going to look different, because it's untenable the way it is. It's going bankrupt. But so Medicare is health insurance for retirees. When you turn 65, you get on Medicare. So anyway, but that's beyond the scope of this class. Thankfully, we don't have to talk about Medicare. But let's go back to Social Security. 6.2%. Think of that. think of if you had 6.2% of your pay to save on your own, to put in mutual funds, put in stocks, you would have, I can guarantee you you would have a lot more money than you're going to get in Social Security, which is what's really aggravating. But anyway, increasing the tax is not popular. Nobody wants to pay more than we're already paying. 6.2 for the employers, 6.2 for employees. Okay, so increasing the age, that's viable. That could happen. Also increasing the base wage for Social Security withholding. So there's a base wage. I think it's around 130 some thousand. It goes up every year. It's around 130, I believe, this year, in the 130s. So there's a base wage at when if you're making so much money, they quit taking Social Security out. So they could increase that base wage, say, to 140,000, which would mean they would take Social Security out of the first 140,000 that you earned. And this brings up an interesting point. On a side note, I used to work as a financial planner, and during the time that I finished my PhD program, before I went back into academia full time, I worked as a financial planner from 1997 to 2004. Anyway, we had a situation where a client had two jobs, and of course the two payrolls, two different companies, they weren't communicating with one another, and they actually were withholding too much Social Security. Luckily, we caught it, or otherwise the person just would have paid too much in Social Security. So if you have a situation where you're making really good money and have two jobs, make sure that they don't take out Social Security beyond the base wage. Okay, they could means test it, meaning wealthy people would receive a reduced benefit or zero benefit. Now, it's already means tested a little bit, meaning that people on the lower end of the lower income wage earners are getting a greater percentage. They use this complicated formula, but lower income people or lower wage earners are getting a greater percentage compared to what they put in than higher income people. But what I'm getting at is, what if you do really well in life, you have a net worth of over $1 million, and they just say, well, you're wealthy, you're not going to get Social Security. Well, that's not popular. Hopefully that will never pass, because it really isn't fair. Why should you penalize people for being successful? They've put into Social Security, right? They should get something out of it. Okay, and then the last one, which is my favorite, which will never happen, is privatizing Social Security. So this was really interesting. And all of these fixes were floating around in the early 2000s. So the privatizing thing was this. So remember, I told you that 6.2% of your income is being deducted for going to Social Security. Well, what they said was, if you were under, I think it was like under age 50, it was a certain age, I believe it was 50, that they were going to take 4% of that 6.2. In other words, the actual 4%. So only 2.2 was going to go to Social Security of your wages. 4% of your wages was going to go into an account in your name. It was still being held by the Social Security Administration, but it was going to be held in an account in your name, and you could pick your investments: cash, bonds, a combination of mutual funds and bonds, or you could put it all in stock mutual funds. So people were really excited about this, because you could actually invest this money in the stock market through mutual funds and make a good return and and really help your Social Security benefit. But then the crash happened. We had the whole dot-com bubble burst. We had 9/11, but it's really this dot-com bubble with the market going down. And so with the market volatility, it's not popular, because people think that the stock, they're worried about the stock market going down. So unfortunately, this is probably the least likely to ever pass, but really makes the most sense, because when you think about it, investing in the stock market or in mutual funds that are invested in stocks, that's your biggest hedge against inflation. The market, the average annual return in the stock market for the last 100 years, 12%. So it's a no-brainer, I think. So anyway, these are some suggestions on how to fix Social Security. And these were floating around, as I said. Some of these would work, and some are popular, some aren't popular, but they really need to act now, or act sooner rather than later, because things are just continue to get worse. Okay, so that is the synopsis for Chapter 21, Social Security. Probably more than you ever wanted to know about Social Security, but now you know it.